The following is a presentation of Morning Drive Media.
Broadcasting from the heart of Studio City, this is the Napzok Files podcast feed. I'm Ken Napzok for another edition of Life Ranked. It's the newest show on the feed. The concept is simple. I bring in a guest. They have a list of 5 things. Could be the best, could be the worst, could be this, could be that. But it is all towards a topic that they know inside and out. And today, with me, if you're a long-time listener of the Napzok Files and Napzok Files, you know this guy. He is a regular on the show. He's a regular in my life. It is my friend and writing partner, Mr. Matthew Dr. Strange Key.
Oh, that's you've changed my middle name.
I've added that. I improv'd that.
Aw.
I made a crazy make-em-up.
You've been taking classes at UCB?
No, LA Connection. LA Connection, place to be.
The best in LA.
The
from what I
best
hear.
connection to have is LA Connection.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on. It's always fun.
Absolutely, Mr. Key.
You're my fop.
Fop, as it were, as we learned. If you are relatively new to the Napzok Files podcast feed, number one, thanks for joining on this journey and adventures. We return here in 2017. But Matt Key, not only have I just known him for a long time, he's been a key, pun intended, guest on the show. I think you were in fact, I know you were the first guest.
Yeah. I was your premier guest.
Premier guest when I was testing it out, and you've shown up a few other times. You and your wife now, Brittany Wallach-Key. You are now Matthew Wallach-Key. What do you put a key? You put a that's your wedding ring.
My wedding ring.
Sorry, I got distracted, audience. He was putting a ring on my microphone. I thought it was like the one ring, but it is the ring.
The one ring.
It's your ring. Lots happening in your life, but we can bring you in for another interview. But I wanted to bring you in for Life Rank, which is a new show here on the feed, because you know something pretty intimately, and that is writing.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I do it for a living.
Yeah.
Well, I guess.
We're going to get into that. And writing is a great noble cause. It's a great important cause. Through the annals of time, back to the ancients, writing has been pretty important.
Well, since the invention of writing, yeah.
Right. When did that happen? Do you have facts on that?
I don't have facts.
You don't have facts on that?
No.
I don't either.
No, I don't. I think
1333.
the first writing would have been like clay tablets.
Oh, okay. You're going back.
Cuneiform, keeping track of.
Just Scribbles in the Dirt.
In Mesopotamia.
Scribbles in the Dirt is also my first album. Yeah.
Scribbles on the clay.
It's been around a while, and it's great. And there's a lot of fun things to have, to experience as a writer.
I do think it's kind of weird that it started as a way to keep track of commerce, and then it grew from there.
Is that a fact? I think
so.
So
It started as a way to keep track of money, I think.
So it was all about ledgers.
Yeah. Accounting were the first writers.
Right, accountants.
Accountants were the first. It's like that old saying. Accountants were the first writers.
Yes. I remember. I read that in the Bible.
Yeah, it's the book of Job, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Job, and then again in Daniel they prophesize it. But that's funny because we always make fun of accountants for being non-creative types.
Yeah,
shame on us.
Shame on us. They created writing.
Shame on us in the LA Connection improv world. Making fun of accountants.
Stupid accountants.
They started writing.
My sister-in-law's an accountant.
Yeah? Well, maybe go to her for writing lessons.
Probably should.
So, Matt, you and I, we've written together a lot of things. We've worked on projects. I brought you in to work on projects at places like, say, Screen Junkies or Collider. Mm-hmm. I know you very well as a writer. You are a talented writer. You are a great story crafter. A crafter of story.
I'm glad that you think so. Sounds like we're already getting into the list.
We're all getting into the list, but today I wanted to talk about I don't want people to assume this is just going to be negative, but we're going to get into a discussion here on the top 5 worst things about being a writer. Again, it's a noble pursuit. You've got a poet's soul, my friend.
That I will not disagree with. I do have the soul of a poet, though I do not have the skill or imagination of one.
Oh, that's not true. I've seen you bring people to tears. all the way. Also, your cat is now wanting on the show.
Yeah.
Hawkeye.
By the way, if you hear a jingling, that is the collars of my two cats.
Hawkeye, the cross-eyed asthmatic cat.
Yeah, he also has breathing problems. So if you hear that in the background, that is most likely not Ken or me.
It's good.
It's possible. It's possible.
So I've asked you to bring in a list of the top 5 worst things about being a writer, and we're going to end it up positive. Don't you worry out there in the audience. I know a lot of you want to be writers, or you're writers yourselves. We just want to kind of be honest and get into it. And I couldn't think of anyone more perfect for this than you, because you and I have struggled for years as writers just as much as we've succeeded in other areas. So take me through this list here, starting with number 5, working our way to number 1. What is?
Oh, we're going in reverse. Okay,
work our way up one at a time.
All right, so
number 5.
Well, you've already heard some of them, that being self-doubt, but that's further in the list. So if we're going in reverse, then one of the hardest things, especially about being a writer in Los Angeles, is, or just like in general, but like in Los Angeles specifically, is that screenwriting is completely separate, structure-wise and in form and everything, to television writing.
Right.
And within television writing, there's the way to write for a Netflix series, or there's the way to write for HBO versus the way that you would write for a multi-camera sitcom versus the way you would write for a single-camera sitcom versus how you would write for, say, NCIS,
Sure.
So, and then on top of all of that, you've got, like, if you want to be...
What does Big Bang Theory fall under for you?
Oh, there's no writing
Oh,
involved
okay,
in that
there's
show.
no writing.
Yeah, there's no writing involved in that show. But that would be multi-camera sitcom. Which is like an older form of comedy and anyway, television comedy. So it's one of the hardest things about being a writer, again, in Los Angeles, is just being able, like, it's hard enough to just write a screenplay, but then, like, you've got to also write all of those for all of those other forms, which takes constant study of those forms, constant reading of those scripts on top of all the other script, like... So there's, in a big way, there's like, you kind of have to just choose one and specialize. But I don't like to choose. So like, I just force myself to try and learn all the forms, which makes me kind of a jack of all, but master of none.
True. I mean, I understand it because we suffer from the same thing. Like, do you just not want to be in a box, or do you want to work extra careful on making sure you're well-versed?
So the thing is like, I don't know if you guys can hear my cat.
That cat is going.
But he's got breathing problems. He's fine. Just has some snarks. We call him Snocks every once in a while. Hey, Snocks. Hey, Snocks. Snocking it up over there? So
the different forms.
So every single story needs its own special, like its own form, you know? So like Back to the Future works because that should be a movie. I don't know that you could tell Back to the Future as a TV show.
Right.
You know, and if you did tell it as a TV show, it would be a completely different story from the movie.
Oh dear God, are they going to try to reboot it as a TV show?
Well, now that I've said it, they probably will. Put it out in the universe, and now it's going to happen. Probably Fox is probably going to do it, or TBS.
It's specific to that.
So it's specific to that. So like, it's really like, you know, like I've got a couple stories that I really like, but they don't work as TV shows. They only work as movies. Right. You know, like the Bill Murray project that you know of, you know, that I'm working on. I could never do that as a TV show. I couldn't do it as a comic. I could, like, the only way that movie that exists is told as a movie.
Right.
You know. But then I've got other ideas that I really like that really don't work as movies. You know, they only work as TV shows, you know, or at the very least, like, I'm robbing them of their potential by forcing them to be movies. Because as we've seen with like the you know, innovations of like Netflix, you know, being able to watch like HBO on demand, Showtime on demand, and stuff like that, when you can binge a show, television really has come to life in the last 5 years in a way that movies can never do. So TV is proving, in a lot of ways, that movies are for spectacle and explosions, and like, not that you can't tell a good story there, but movies are, oh my God, look at this massive, gigantic story that can't be contained to television, whereas television is, look at this very intricate, detailed, character-focused story.
Well, and I'm trying to think in a practical sense, a project that you and I had developed for years, along with the help of Jack Conway, Matt Mercer, all four of us creating an animated property that was had different versions of 5-minute internet or web or 22-minute sitcom-y style, and we did try to take it to a movie form, and that was kind of difficult. Changed the characters, the story, what we were trying to do completely. And in fact, it never came to fruition as a completed script because it just was not what we had originally intended. So not that we couldn't have, it just was a different style.
a different style, and it just doesn't work as well.
Right.
You know, so like I've really come to discover like that whenever I have an idea and I write it down and start playing with it on how I want to write it, it's really a matter of like it is like strangely spiritual as this is going to sound. It's like the story will tell you how it needs to be written, but you as the writer have to know how to then write that story.
Right.
And to know how to write that story, is it a movie? All right, well, if it's a movie, what genre movie is it? All right, well, if it's you know, a sci-fi genre, well, there's particular tropes that should be met, and there's a particular structure that goes with that, you know. And I'm getting like, you know, that's not a hard fast rule,
no,
you know, but like that is like you still have to know, you know, how all the other films have done it before you,
right?
You know, so.
Absolutely.
It's just there's a lot of education that you have to be the best writer, and to like to be a writer in Los Angeles, you have to be the best. Like you have to be hyper informed, hyper educated, very well read, because every single person out here has a laptop and goes to a Starbucks on Saturday, you know, to write their screenplay. With that many screenplays out there, only the best are gonna, you know.
Yeah.
At least, like in terms of getting representation, which is another thing.
So you're what you're saying is the difficult thing is there's just so many, and especially nowadays, you can't get locked into one. So you can't just haphazardly go like you know, I have a comic book idea. Someone might say, well, you can't just go simply do that. You should do that. You should chase your dreams, get down on pen and paper, and start writing. But you have to know. You have to know the form.
You have to know the form, and you have to know the medium, and you have like, and again, bringing up comic books, that's a whole other thing. Like that's
right.
Like I've tried to write a couple of those, and those are tricky, especially if you're not an artist, you know, because then like you have to go out like in order to tell the story in a whole, you have to go pay an artist, and you know that's like $200 a page. So it's not that's an expensive, you know, form to get into, you know, so. Do
you feel at any point, and I mean, I know just off microphone and off the record what you and I have talked about, but at any point have you felt, I'm just going to choose a lane and stick to it?
I have tried that, yeah. Yeah. But I just
and your mind wanders into the other lane?
My mind wanders. I just can't, you know.
There's too many stories to tell to want to just stick to one, right?
Yeah, and that's getting into what we want to talk about later is about the reasons to be a writer, you know, is there are, so like if you have a mind like mine, there are a lot of stories that you want to tell. You come up with like a lot of concepts every single day. You're like, I want to see that story, or I want to see that character, or I want to see how this person will interact with this person in this situation, you know, like you just start to get excited. Then before you know it, you've fallen down a hole for an hour or two, and you're like, oh man.
And it sounds like the answer isn't necessarily that you need to choose one. You just need to be educated on all of them.
Yeah.
Your cat is now making out with me.
Yeah.
This is great.
He's a sweet cat.
I wish it was video. All right, so that's number 5.
Yes.
Worst thing about being a writer is you got a lot of forms, various forms you've got to master. You got to educate yourself. You got to know what you're writing. That's not to dismay anyone out there. It's just to warn you.
No, there's
a lot to learn.
There's a lot. Like, you know, and I don't read nearly as much as I used to. I should really be reading a couple scripts a day, you know, just to
learn,
to learn, to keep on top of it, you know, like what's out there, what's hitting the agencies, what's popular. Like you've got to stay on top of all of that stuff.
Right.
So,
all right, number 4.
The psychological effects of being a writer.
Oh.
And I think this goes with trying to professionally be any artist.
Sure.
But there is, you're constantly beating yourself up. You're constantly, like, you're never good enough. There is, like, a persistent self-doubt that is constantly sort of, like, needling at the back of your head that at any moment everyone's going to find out that you actually have no idea what you're doing.
And does it also translate into the frustration of feeling you're not getting your story out of your brain onto the paper right, and you just constantly doubt that that's happening?
Also that.
Yeah,
also that.
Part of it.
You know, you know, you worry about that. You worry that you're not giving the characters their due justice. You worry that, you know, especially like when you want to make a career out of this.
Yeah.
You know, which means like you want to you want your living to persist of being paid to create things and put them on paper and have other people read them or watch your words happen. The second you start crossing over into more professional realm,
putting it out there,
it's the self-doubt increases like tenfold.
What have you done to battle this self-doubt as a writer?
Therapy. Talk to my wife and have her reassure me that I'm not terrible.
Well, you're currently looking over at your wife, and she's giving you a thumbs down.
Yeah, no.
You're terrible.
That's my cat, by the way.
Oh, that was
my
cat.
cat. That was my cat. Yeah, that was my wife.
I heard.
Yeah, my cat. My wife meows a lot. My cat tells me how bad I am all the time.
Damn cat. But yeah, so it's constantly there with every word, with every sentence, every script.
And like, again, like we'll get into this. Like one of the best things about being a writer is that once you really get into it, I think the process is different for every writer, but I think everyone has a similar experience, even if the details. Oh, that's the ice cream man.
We got ice cream. We got cats. This is great.
Can our audience hear the ice cream?
Yeah, they can hear the ice cream.
Okay.
We'll stop. We'll run out and get some.
That dude, by the way, that ice cream truck has the best chocolate malts.
All right, we're going to pause right now. And we're back. We have a chocolate malt in our hand.
Man, I really wish that was true. I really want a chocolate malt now.
So this is but for you it sounds constant, and for me it was constant. It's the creative soul comes with this price. And sometimes
persistent
self-doubt.
But like when I get into the middle of it, this is what I was going to say before the ice cream man interrupted us. Yes, there's that self-doubt, and it takes me about an hour. I tend to not write unless I know I've got 4 hours.
Okay.
Because I know it's going to take me at least 45 minutes of straight focus and telling myself that I am good enough and to stop self-doubting myself. And
so
like
you
just
have to factor in pep talk.
Yeah, and like I'll type a couple words here in those 45 minutes. I'll type a couple of those words in.
Right.
I'll go to Facebook. I'll type a few more words in.
Right.
It's kind of like getting those gears back in. It's like I get back on the horse very slowly every single time I sit down to write.
But you get back on.
But I get back on. But I think every writer deals with like okay, here we go, like facing the blank page or one of the best advice some of the best advice I ever heard about screenwriting and TV writing is never end your writing at the end of a scene. Like always end your writing in the middle of a scene where you know where you want it to go.
Oh yeah, that's a good trick.
So because what happens is if you end your session at the end of a scene, then when you start, you're like, all right, starting from scratch.
Yeah.
But if you stop in the middle of a scene, when you come back the next day or a couple of days later, like whenever you get back to writing, then you're like, oh yeah, I remember how I wanted this scene to resolve itself. That's an immediate, like, almost like a writing exercise just to zip you back into it.
Well, I like that strategy.
So I try to do that as often as I can. But I know it's going to take me at least 45 minutes to pep myself up, get into it. But once I get into it, I can sit there for 3, 4, 5 hours and not doubt a single thing.
That was where I was going to go.
In the process, I don't doubt anything.
Once you're locked in.
Once I'm locked in, it's like, cool, I'm writing. Here's how I want this scene to go. Here's how I want this scene. Oh, man, this would be funny if, oh, man, I loved it. Oh, my God, this character should do this because that'll lead to this later. And then, I'll start taking notes on the things that I'm thinking about. I get excited, zipping right through it. Then close the computer, wind it down, come home. And then it hits.
What
am I going to do with this? Why am I spending my time with this? There is nothing. I can do nothing with what I'm doing. Yeah,
that's the moment.
Yeah.
How do you? So that's it's those moments that time between shutting the computer down and getting home is your thoughts come back to you.
Yeah,
and I think that's powerful for people to hear because. Especially if they've listened to your work or followed your work on Marvel movie news and all that kind of stuff. I'm
doing some stuff over at Geek and Sundry now.
Sundry,
play around with Screen Junkies from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely. You wrote a crash course for Collider.
That was a lot of fun, actually. And I learned a lot from that. Like,
Sure.
I learned and I knew I would, and that's something that the crash course thing that we're talking about. Everybody is I did the license, the Marvel licenses. But that was fascinating. But it's really fascinating.
My point being, it's powerful to hear that someone like you, who's got things out there, is still going to go through this.
Oh man,
and still going to
I really go through it. I really supremely go through it. Yeah.
A lot of writers do.
Yeah, I have never met one that does not.
Does it fuel you at any point, or is it just a constant block in the road?
I think for me, it's a block.
That's my answer too.
Yeah,
I've never.
I don't want it to be, and I try to push past it. And again, that's why I'm going to a therapist helps. Sure. Having my wife Brittany and trusted friends like you and Mercer and everyone else. That certainly helps. And Geek and Sundry has been great. Anytime I can have any semblance of validation.
Right. But
here's the catch-22 with receiving validation is that you have to consistently put yourself out there to receive that validation. So
never ends.
Yeah.
Never ends. Do you think at any point what could you imagine happening that would make you think, oh, I've reached it, I'm fine, I don't doubt anymore? Do you think it'll ever happen?
If I were to get a manager,
okay,
just the simple act of getting a manager who I believed, if I could get a manager who I felt believed in what I could do, I'd be fine.
You'd be fine.
I would be absolutely
cured forever.
Fine. I don't know that I would say cured forever, but let's say on a scale of 1 to 100, my self doubt is at 85.
Sure,
my self doubt would plummet to the 30s.
Lower down.
Gotcha. it would be a dramatic. I've got representation. I'm good.
Good.
Okay. And I've still got to do the work.
Sure.
But if I had representation, I would feel like my work was actually going somewhere.
Yeah.
And the very fact that I had representation would validate all of the work that I had done.
That you've done. Okay.
So
there's something you can see something on paper, a tangible thing in a way that would make it think, which is hopeful. Because if it's just your soul is breaking you, then we got a problem.
Yeah.
You got a problem.
So
that's number 4. The beating yourself up, the constant self-doubt, the weight of being a writer sometimes can be too much. Number 3 on your list.
I'm going to say that the job is never done.
Never done.
And if you're working in data entry, the job is never done. I get that. What I mean is maybe the job is not. Maybe a better way to say that is
that
the story's never done.
The specific or just overall? The story in your heart or the Doctor Strange fanfic?
All of it. It's never done. So let's you know what? Let's take a Doctor Strange fanfic.
Okay.
I'm not actually writing one.
Oh, that's not what I'm looking at down here?
No, that's the concept art from the movie.
Oh, I thought it was your fanfic.
No. God,
all right, so
I should write a fanfic.
A Doctor Strange fanfic.
So let's say I'm writing a Doctor Strange fanfic, and let's say that I get to a place where I'm very happy because Doctor Strange has. I'm just going to make this up. Let's say, so Doctor Strange's one-time wife is Clea. They just recently got divorced, even though they haven't seen one another in years because she's... Anyway, way too many details. I like Doctor Strange. So let's say in my fanfic, I've decided to write the story where Doctor Strange goes back to the Dark Dimension, finds Clea, re-proposes, she says yes, they go and have this beautiful wedding, but Clea's mother, Umar, the other leader of the Dark Dimension, crashes it. And let's say they're able to defeat her.
I fact-check all of it, it's true.
Yeah, and they're still madly in love and everything else. All right, so let's say I write 6 issues of that fanfic, and I like it. But then I look back at it, I'm like, Umar wasn't the right choice for this. Dormammu may have been a better choice, but no, you know what? Actually, Nightmare might be a better choice because Dormammu's doing this, and yeah, no, you know what? I've got to rewrite all of this because Nightmare was a better choice, and that actually gives me better places for Doctor Strange and Clea to go with their relationship. Oh my God! And then you've got Nightmare as a sort of metaphor for what they're going. Oh man, yeah. I've got to completely change this.
Change it.
Because the story that I told, while good, is not as good as it could be. So screw this. I've got to go change it.
And here's the frustrating thing about that. I say this, it's a good thing. You're really good at that. So when we'd write some things, we'd put a first act down, sometimes complete a script, but do this, and then you'd write me, I got an idea. You're going to hate me, but I got an idea. And I certainly wouldn't hate you, but it'd be like, but we finally finished this first act.
Yeah.
I thought we got a few drafts that are good. And then you pitch your switch, and it's like, that is good.
That is better.
We have to do that.
Yeah.
And let's go back to the beginning and rebuild this first act.
Yep.
Now, that can also be a crutch or it can keep things from going forward. You and I've talked about that. But that's the little frustrating thing is the curse of, specifically to you, is why I say you're a good storyteller. You stumble onto these things and you're always going to stumble onto it. So
so my stories are never done.
It's a
my
blessing
stories are
and a
never
curse.
done.
Yeah.
So I can get to a place where I'm like, that first draft is okay. Like,
Right.
and I mean, like, it's a first draft. Like, you're going to write 1,000 drafts of everything. That's
Right.
the other thing. Like,
Right.
the other part of this never being done is that you're going to have to write so many drafts, especially in screenwriting and
Right.
television writing, because you have to get the form down. Like, the form is so specific, Like,
Right.
I feel like, I've never tried to write a novel, so this is not fair for me to say, but I feel like in some ways they have it a little bit easier. Because they can write, about how their character feels, and they can describe the world, and like a lot of that stuff fleshes out the actual novel. But in screenwriting and in TV writing, I can't write, Ken felt bad, or Ken felt hope in him for the first time in years, or whatever, because you can't show that on screen.
Right.
You have to come up with a way for Ken, the character, to visually show on screen that he feels hope. Because if you have Ken go, I feel hope for the first time in years, the audience is like, boo. Like, no.
Right.
So you have to find a way to have Ken show hope for the first time.
Yeah.
And maybe the story that we were telling about you is that you're trying to find a girl, and
That's a story.
Yeah, that's a story. And for the entire first 60 pages of the screenplay, you've struggled with it, but then
Just 70, 60, 70 pages?
Yeah, but then we get to the midpoint hook, that second act hook that kind of switches everything in a new direction. We've got that's the ice cream man. He just got done delivering
changed.
ice
That's
cream.
a different sounding ice cream man.
Yep.
Ice cream man from hell.
He's Hell's ice cream.
Hell's cream.
Yeah, Hell's cream. You scream Hell scream. We all scream for Hell scream. Yeah. So let's say the mid act, the second act hook for you.
Yeah.
Whatever. Is that you meet a girl and she doesn't shoot you down. Like every other girl that you've met in the entire movie has shot you down.
Right.
Then the second act hook, you meet a girl, she doesn't shoot you down, and you do something that we've never seen you do before.
Smile.
You smile and you give her your number. But in order for us to know that that's how we're going to show hope, we have to have also implemented that in the entire first 60 pages. And it's a small change. It's a little change.
Sure.
But it's knowing how to do that. And I just made that up, and I think that's not very good at all.
I think it sounds good.
Well, I personally think it's you like to smile, but there are better ways to show
Sure.
Because maybe for all the audience knows you farted. That's not definitively showing hope.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's finding ways to incorporate all of that into the screenplay or into the teleplay.
Right.
That is incredibly hard. Whereas a novelist can be like, Ken felt hope spring up within him for the first time in ages. Boom, done. We get it.
Yeah.
So
it's the cheat of being a novelist.
Yeah. Those cheating novelists.
It's a cheating novelist.
And again, that's not fair. I've never written a novel. I've sat down to play around with ideas for it, and I'm just like, oh my god, I don't have the patience to write this many words.
Yeah.
That's the downfall of being a writer, novelist.
But yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the story being it's never done, meaning it's not just that you have homework for the rest of your life as a writer, that famous saying, but just that you have these stories in your heart and your mind, inspiration and craft, two different things, but they're always there. So it's not that you're never satisfied. It's just your brain's going to wrap around these stories and always have different ways to tell them.
Well, and again, that's true. But then, going back to what was that point 4, the crippling self-doubt. What happens is when I find the better way to tell the story, I immediately discount the other.
Right.
So for example, with our practices in the past,
right.
Whenever I would stumble across oh my God, we need to cut these 15 pages, move this here, completely change the structure in this way and that, and introduce this character on this page instead of this page, that to me immediately means, oh man, this is the better way, which means the way that we did it is terrible. And doesn't work and is stupid and no one will like that. So
that's the rub.
Right
there.
So yes, the story's never done in a creative sense, but the story's also never done in the crippling self-doubt sense. Because the second I stumble across something that I feel is a better decision or a better choice, the other one is a terrible choice all of a sudden.
Gotcha.
And sometimes it's a minor change, but most of the time for me, it's oh man, this is like a page 4 rewrite.
Right. Going back to have you brought your script drafts to your therapist?
No.
And explain.
No.
Can you help me figure out what between draft 3 and 4?
No, I have not. But I have told my therapist my story ideas, and she always likes them, and she always validates me, which is always nice.
Oh,
and
which is
like I went and saw her a couple months ago, and she asked me about one of my comic books that I was trying to write. Yeah. She's like, "Whatever happened to that comic book that you were trying to?" I was like, I don't know how to get people to. I don't know how to pay people for artwork. I like the story, and I feel like it's in a good place, but I just don't know how to pay. I don't know how to get an artist on board. She's like, I really like that story a lot, and I was like, oh well, that feels nice. That feels good. You didn't read it, forward.
Finish that job. So that is number 3. Job is never done. Number 2 on the list of top 5 worst things about being a writer is.
In order to make money, you have to have representation.
Okay.
And that is...
And we're talking career...
in order to make,
money. We're not talking mansion, by the way. We're talking...
No.
Can you pay for the chips and salsa?
Again, now, that's not necessarily true in some ways. In order to make money as a writer, you can go to YouTube and... create enough content that you get 1 million subscribers or whatever.
Right.
YouTube is sending you checks.
The game has changed,
certainly there's that. But in order to do that, you have to be more than a writer. You have to be a performer. Again, I can, I've done groundlings. I can do all that stuff. I don't know how interested I am in that.
Right. You're a writer through and through.
I just enjoy writing so much. And it's fun for me to be on camera. I absolutely love it. Again, all the stuff that I get to do with Geek and Sundry and stuff is tons of fun. But at the end of the day, I just want to create worlds and be able to manipulate them and play with them and see those things come to life. So it's tricky for me because I don't want to do YouTube stuff but in a lot of ways that's kind of the best or only way to get yourself out there, stuff like that. So there is that. Yeah, there's that option, and there's a lot of people have come to prominence and fame because of that, which is great.
Yeah, we're not discounting that at all. No, but you're talking about the classical sense,
the classical way to get ahead
and the career you want,
and to the career that I want is to get representation. The only way to get representation is to write enough of a portfolio of good material that you can go into an agent or a manager and say, hey, what do you think of this? And then they say yes. The problem with that, you can't just go straight to a manager or an agent because there's a lot of legal loopholes that you have to jump through.
Right.
Because if I were to go to a manager and say, hey, I've got this great script, about, 4 lizards who end up becoming ninjas, and then they go and create the Ninja Turtles or whatever, then I can say, hey, you stole my idea.
Right.
I submitted my script to you, and then you stole the idea, and they, the agency, now have a legal fight, and I can sue them for that. Look at how much money you've made from that. You owe me 10% of that because you stole my idea. It's we made $100 million. We owe you $10 million for an idea that we actually didn't steal.
Right.
And that's typically what happens. They didn't steal the idea. The problem with Hollywood is there's so many people writing and creating content and stuff like that. Everyone has the same idea.
Oh, well, I'm telling you, the internet. The internet's changed that game so much where there was recently a sketch that I co-wrote that was up on a channel, and then it turns out it was so similar to something that came out 4 or 5 years ago. I didn't know existed.
Didn't even know existed.
Had no idea it existed.
Yeah. One of my when Pacific Rim was coming out, we went to one of those audience viewings, where they take notes on what the audience said. We saw it a couple months early, and Guillermo del Toro actually ended up being there, and he was hanging out in the lobby, getting popcorn with his family. No one seemed to know who he was. And I was like, how is he not swamped with fans right now? We're about to go watch his movie. What is going on? So I went up to him and I watched, made sure I wasn't interrupting him when his family was around. His family kind of took off. He was just standing there getting his popcorn. And I went up and was like, hey, Mr. Del Toro, I'm sorry to bother you. I just wanted to say, I'm a fan. I thought Pan's Labyrinth was beautiful. I'm excited for this film. And he was very generous, very nice. He's like, so you like movies? And I was like, yeah. I love them. He's like, do you work in movies? And I was like, no, I've dabbled in production here and there, but really, I just want to be a writer. He goes, oh, writing is very fun. Yes. And I was like, oh, it's I love it. Right. And he goes, but it is a son of a bitch. Yes. And I was like, yeah, it is. And he goes, you write you write and you write and you write and you bleed on this page and you write some more and you write 10,000 fucking drafts of this great idea that you're in love with, and then you get it to your manager and they're in love with it, and they send it to the studio, and the studio says, oh, we just bought this idea. We already have this. And you're like, son of a bitch. And like, for me to hear him saying that at his level, like, is both encouraging and discouraging at the same time, because it's like, well, how do I?
He's just like us, however, he's farther along. Yeah,
he's just like us.
How do you break through that?
Come on, you know.
Yeah.
So
you might be in your room in Pasadena,
and then
writing, and you don't know there's someone else out there.
And for as much gruff as he gets online, a lot of times, Max Landis was very nice and met with me once to talk screenwriting, and I was complaining to him about like. He started saying like, so screenwriting, you've got to have an idea, and he starts telling me like basically how to screenwrite. I was like, no. I would love to have some pointers on how you approach it, but like more nuanced. My bigger thing is I don't know like how much do I need to write to get in to a manager. Like I just have more professional like business side questions for you. And he's like, oh, you're already writing? I was like, yeah. And he goes, well, dude, like he said, think of it this way. You're on you already know the craft of writing more or less. Right. You just have to keep writing. Right now, the more you write, the further along in your rocket you get to the moon. So right now you're on your rocket. You're fine. Just keep writing. You're going to get to the moon eventually if you just keep writing. Right. He goes, now, you look at me. I'm on the moon. I've already written enough to get to the moon. I'm here. And I'm looking at the moon going, oh, shit, I can see Mars from here. I'm going to go to Mars. Right. And he goes, so that's where I'm going right now. Like, I'm like fueling my rocket ship now to leave the moon to go to Mars.
Next level.
You know, and he goes, and it just takes a lot of writing. And I was like, oh my God, like how much do I have to write? And he goes, I'm going to stop you right there. I wrote 300 scripts before I got a meeting. I wrote another 100 before they took me. Right. He wrote 400 scripts before he got representation. And I'm like, well, I've written 3 and I've written like
397 to go.
Like I've written 3 features and I've written, I think 4 pilots, you know, granted, maybe 5.
Max is a machine at times.
Oh, no, he's again, like he gets a lot of gruff online and some of it's, you know, probably deserved. But at the same time, the dude works and he works hard and he's very talented and,
yeah,
you know,
I mean, I've seen him pitch things live in person on shows. It's amazing.
He's an incredibly smart and very talented writer, and you cannot take that away from him. You know, a lot of people will say like it's because of his dad, and certainly that doesn't hurt. But Max still put in all the work. He still
his dad wasn't writing the scripts with him. Yeah,
exactly.
No, I know.
So
and
certainly he would get a pointer or two from his dad, absolutely. But he still did all the work on his own. So
that's the great advice, you know, about just keep writing.
Just keep writing.
But it still doesn't necessarily guarantee representation.
No. And the other thing that I'm discovering is that like all my writing is done more or less in a vacuum. So like I don't have anyone like looking over my shoulder going, you know, you could do this better. Like I'm figuring that out on my own.
Well,
so
your cat seems to try.
My cat definitely tries, but my cat also thinks that a laser is a bug. So
that's a fact.
That's a fact. So now I'm realizing that I'm like scurrying and reaching out, trying to find like, well, here's someone that I legitimately very much trust. I wonder if he would be willing to read, which is a big undertaking. That's like 100 pages. Like, hey, read 100 pages and tell me what you think. You know.
Oh, that ice cream man from hell.
No, that's the taco dude.
Oh, that's the taco dude.
Yeah, that's the taco dude. Yeah. Lots of delivery in this area. Yeah, lots of food just running around the streets. You can't write in a vacuum. You have to have people looking at your work, criticizing your work, critiquing your work, telling you how you could do it better, what better choices could be, a better method to approach A, B, and C.
Which then filters back to some of the other problems about self-doubt and getting out of that circle.
So,
and then maybe you'll find the right person to find the right agent, the right manager, and get representation, which is key to having a career that you and a lot of people want. So it's hard.
It's incredibly hard, yeah.
In fact, it's the number 2 thing on the list of top 5 worst things about being a writer. But here is the number 1 reason, the number 1 worst thing about being a writer, according to Matt Key, is...
all of those reasons combined make it very hard to make money as a writer.
Sustainability.
Sustainability. That's a good word for it. You should be a writer.
I used to.
It's a better word. Yeah.
I used to be.
Yeah. Sustainability.
It
It's
wasn't sustaining me enough.
Yeah. No, I know. I get that.
So all that factors in. You have to overcome doubt, overcome having the various forms, the education of it, getting a manager up late at night because the stories are in your heart and they never stop coming out. But all that leads to hard to make money.
It's hard to make money. It's just legitimately very hard to make money. And that's why, like, I think it's so funny because I grew up in Texas and went to school in Oklahoma, and I would hear people complaining so much about how much people get paid in Hollywood. They'd be like, you got $1 million for that? You know, and they'd be like, oh my God, actors get paid to so much money, like such astronomical amounts of money. And it's like, all right.
Right.
Now that I've been out here for 12 years and I see the process, yes, you get that much money. And because here's, you worked your ass off to do it.
Right.
It's an impossible job to get into. So yeah, because you make so much money at it.
Right.
But the reason you make so much money is because you're not guaranteed to ever work again.
You're not guaranteed to work again. Let's not forget it's I want to get a discussion on salaries of pro athletes. It's insane. But look, only 500 people can hit a baseball that far, and there's a giant business around it. So you're going to get a lot of the money that's going into that business. A lot of money going into these Marvel movies. A lot of money going into the entertainment industry. So you're going to get a piece of that without a doubt. But I always say, and people have said this to me, and I've adopted it as a little thought process, is when that finally comes, that money, you're not just getting paid for that project. You're getting paid for the 12 years of free. You're getting paid for the hard work and dedication that you put into it. And yes, it's a lot of money. Hopefully you do something good with that money and you buy a homeless man an ice cream from the Hell's Ice Cream Man around the corner. But yes, you're not just getting paid that money. And for that, it's all the work going into it. And you're right. You might never work again. You got to take that gamble.
There's the insurance policy of it. The reason, like oh my God, I may never work again, so I better ensure that I have a buffer for if I never work again, so there's that. There's the paying you for the talent, it's, I don't know if it's true or not, but the story about Henry Ford built his plant, one of his machines breaks down, and he has to hire a guy to come out and fix it, and the guy comes out and fixes it. And he's like, great, that'll be $100. And Ford's like, whoa, $100? Like, it took you like 10 minutes to do it, and that part only cost like 10 cents. And he goes, yeah, $5 for my time, $95 for knowing where to put that thing. And it's like, yeah, it's not bad. So $100,000 for the script, but at the end of the day, the writer's only getting $50,000 of that. Right. Because 10% goes to the attorney, 10% goes to the agent, and 20% goes to the manager. Right. Even if the manager and then taxes. And
then you tax it.
So $100,000, you're getting $50,000 of it, and that's got to sustain you for how long?
Well, here's a practical sense. I when I worked in the security industry, an employee of mine, quietly on the side, was a writer. I didn't know. He worked a graveyard shift, and he comes in one morning and resigns. And I'm like, oh, hey, cool, Archie, where you going? And another job, security job? He's like, no, I sold a screenplay. Holy shit! Wow, great! Good for you, yay! And he's like, I gotta quit. Kind of was like hesitant to him, like, well, no, why? You got screen? He's like, well, I sold it for $110,000, and I've got to go set up my production company and get that going and get this film made and help them with that. And then he was kind of a filmmaker as well, and he's like, I got to start my next project, and I've only got $110,000 to do that. And even though our salaries at the time were, far less than that. This was his one shot, and that's all he had to take that one shot.
Exactly. So, like, that's why you make so much at it. However, because there's only like maybe 1,000 writers in town who are constantly writing. Like maybe, I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe there's like 5,000 writers constantly writing on screenplays, movies, television, whatever. For every one of those writers who's working, there's like 100 more begging to take that person's job, you know? And all of those writers have like the tiny little bitty things that come up, like, like even me with the Geek and Sundry and getting to write for Collider here and there, like all that stuff, like that's perfect kinds of, sustainable stuff, and I write commercial treatments as much as I can. I haven't had as many come through lately, but that's sustained me for like 3 or 4 or 5 years. And I remember my friend Matt Altman, who's a screenwriter. Yeah. We're going to his birthday party tonight, actually. My friend Matt Altman, he he kind of has like this big Facebook writers group that I'm a part of, and we had a meetup last year. And there were a couple writers there who like were very much like in the last year, like sold 2 big projects. They were doing really well. So everyone was excited to talk to them and, congratulate them. But what was funny was that at the time I was writing commercial treatments a lot. And I had so many writers that night, like, oh my God, how do you get into that? Like, and in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to stop.
How do I get out of it?
How do I get out of it? I, at the time, did not realize what a gift it was that I had that, know? So then I started like, yeah, I'll take them all. Like apparently this is a gift that I didn't realize it was a gift. Give me every single one of these commercial treatments, because it's a way for me as a writer to continue being a writer, to keep practice writing, to get paid for it on top of, okay, cool, now I'm going to go take a couple hours to work on my own personal script.
Yeah.
So...
Well, it's important, too, if anyone's out there listening that's, not in the L.A. area, not pursuing this craft, but want to, how it's the reality, again, of how hard it is to make money. So you're going to come out here and you're going to have a day job. You're going to have to, commercial treatment as a paid writing gig, and you have to look at that a different way. And I always say art is great, but this is a business, and so you should have a good combination of both and a good sense of both. I'm going to move to L.A. because I have a script. Honey child, you need 50. You need to keep writing, keep telling the story, and it is not just about writing for inspiration, it is writing for craft. And then knowing that even that might mean you're not sure where you're going to get your meal this weekend from.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's just because you're writing things, there's no guarantee that, that's ever going to be seen.
Right.
One of my, there's a composer named Austin Wintory who, he actually wrote a song for when I proposed to Brittany. He's a good friend of ours. He did the soundtrack for Journey and a couple other movies or video games. Anyway, I was in talking to him about the song for my wife. When I proposed to Brittany, my now wife, we just started talking about like the artistic process because it's it's similar for every artist.
Sure,
the process is always the process. It's just how it ends up, like where the artwork goes, more the form that it takes than anything. And he said, like, the people. I think here's how I told him that I thought he was genius. Like I listened to the song, I was like, "That's genius. That's brilliant. That's incredible." He's like, "You're very sweet. Like, thank you." I was like, "No. Like that is a brilliant song. I can't believe that you were able to crank that out that way and everything." He goes, "Well, what you don't see is the 99% of the bullshit that I left behind." He's like, "I only chose to let you see like 2% of what I worked on."
It's a good way of looking at it.
So he's like, what you're calling genius, I'm seeing as the only success that I had out of 99 tries. Basically. And I thought that was so...
It's inspiring
smart,
and daunting at the same time.
Exactly, because it's like, oh my God, I've got to go write 30 screenplays before I write one that's halfway good, And it's just like the process of writing a screenplay is at least 6 weeks, So it's like
unless you're Sylvester Stallone writing Rocky in alleged 3 days, right?
Or Max Landis is now at a level where he can write a script a week.
Sure.
And like the scripts are good, and it's just like, oh, I hate you so much, but like,
and that's craft.
He's earned that, So
that's craft as well. It's just inspiration. Yeah, it's my old photography teacher. Back when I was learning on film and developing film, like, hey, a roll of 24 shots. Let's hope you get one good one. And you're most likely you'd be lucky if you get that one.
Yeah.
And all that leads to trying to make money out of that one. So
it's just hard. It's incredibly hard to make money because the only way that you make money is to get to a certain level where you're being paid. But in order to get to that level, like you have to spend 10 years of practice and failing. And overcoming self-doubt and
trying to get representation and mastering the various forms, and it all ties together into that dollar. And it's not it is the reality of trying to pursue your passion.
And then at the end of the day, there's no guarantee that any of the work that you've just done is ever going to be seen, ever going to get out there, or ever going to make you any money at all. Like, of all the scripts that I've ever written, and I've loved every single one of them, at the end of the day, I've liked everything that I've ever written. I've just never thought it was good enough to get me representation, And,
we've got to unlock that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Matt, we've come up with this list here, and I wanted you to have a pretty honest take on it, and it's good for people to hear. But I know in closing, as we close here, we're not going to do another 5 lists, but this is some dark, daunting, overwhelming thoughts. But there's some good things about being a writer.
Yeah.
And there's a reason you do it. And the reason it's in your soul.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Like, the process is fun. Like, once I'm able to sit down at a computer and start, like, writing for those characters and start, like, plotting out the story, it's fun. There's a sort of, like, magic to it that I love.
Yeah.
That I don't, like, I mean, short of, like, maybe a few times on the Groundling stage, like, I very... rarely have felt that level of magic whenever, like, I'm able to create a scene that I'm so madly in love with. And, or like just a bit or a beat or a character, like, that I just love. And
there's something to it. Even in some of the sketches I'm writing now for the Collider Awesome-tacular show, like in the writer's room or, Harloff reads one of the lines and laughs, and there's that little, in my head, there's that little, yeah, that's why I do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, I love that. Like,
not the praise, not the validation, just this cosmic level of, something I created in my mind. Something
that I have created has elicited the response in you that I desired.
Right.
And there's a level of, like, the feeling of, like, success and all that. And, like, the thought that one day, like, maybe I would be able to see something that I wrote appear on the screen with my name on it and watch it in an audience with other people watching what was in my head is just, like... There's, like, no level of magic that can compete with that, to me.
Right.
And, like, I go back and forth. Like, sometimes I'm like, maybe I actually just want to be a performer. Maybe I want to be an actor. Maybe I want to be on the screen instead of behind it. But I don't think I do. No. Like, there is a struggle there sometimes where I'm like, man, I really...
Well, there's that side. You're good at that, and that's it.
Like, I enjoy doing Groundlings. I enjoy performing. Anytime I'm on, like... Signal Boost, Geek and Sundry, or go sing karaoke. It's like, I'm on stage, and like, this is fun.
Well, you're a bit of a card.
But
fine. But you're a writer beneath it all. You're not just a writer beneath it all. You're a storyteller beneath it all.
I want to be, yeah. I'm trying.
Yeah.
Self-doubt.
That's going to be another episode.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go into your therapy sessions and just record and interview your therapist with you.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be a good session, I bet.
Well, Matt, thank you for providing this list, and thank you for providing some good notes at the end. I know a lot of you out there are probably thinking, well, why should I? No, this list is to show you of what is on the road in front of you and to not be afraid of it, to take on each step as a challenge and to succeed with those things being conquered.
This is what I wish that I'd known when I came out here, because I would have had, like, so much better perspective.
Yeah.
Like, I'm giving you 12, 13 years of screwing up, like, missteps, like, misjudgments.
Yep. I came to town in 1998 with a story.
Yeah.
That story ain't never been told.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, it was the same with me. Like, I came out here with a screenplay I was in love with. I had been told by other writers, like, this is brilliant. This is great. You should absolutely be a writer. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go conquer the world. And
go win your Oscar now.
Yeah, 13 years later, I'm like, oh, my God, I have no idea what I'm doing still. Like,
Absolutely. So this is a real list. It's an important list. If you're a writer or an artist of any kind, looking to make a living out of it there. So Matt, I want to thank you so much for coming in and sharing your soul as you always do so well.
Thank you.
You are my fun. Dr. Strange.
Your friend and your writing partner.
And I like your cape. Thanks for wearing it on the show.
Of course, always.
Matt, where can they follow you and all your adventures? Because you do have a lot of things going on and some shows I want them to see.
I'm on Twitter. You can follow me at the Matt Key, MATTKEY. And then, I have an Instagram. I'm never on it. I never take pictures. I use it mostly just to look at other people's pictures.
You're so bad at promoting yourself.
I am. That's...
You haven't said a single show you've been on this week.
Yeah, your wife is yelling at you.
I was doing that right now.
You see him on Nerdist, on Screen Junkies.
I was doing that next.
Marvel Movie News podcast on Popcorn Network Talk.
I'm not editing this out, by the way. I'm gonna.
Nor should you.
You can see him at my house.
That is your lovely wife, Brittany.
I'm really good at making tacos.
Your wife's
my lovely wife.
Is it taco night? Because that's why I came here.
That was I was talking about the other night.
Yeah, you do a lot. Run through it again.
So you can find me on Twitter at the Matt Key. I'm also on. I have a Marvel show that I produce and host called Marvel Movie News. That's on Popcorn Talk Network. You can follow me there also at the Popcorn at Marvel Movie News PTN. Geek and Sundry. I'm starting to do a lot of more stuff over there. I just did a Screen Junkies news. I'm over on Screen Junkies from time to time. I mean, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see my mini wondrous pop culture nerdy.
It all starts there.
Adventures.
Follow him on Twitter and give him an encouraging word. Validate his very existence. That is what we all need in this town and in this life. It's good to have a little comfort, validation, and self-doubt be erased. This has been the Napzok Files Life Ranked. As always, you can go and follow me on Twitter at Ken Napzok. And if you want to add to this conversation, use the hashtag LifeRanked. You can follow the podcast on Podomatic, Stitcher, iTunes. If you're on iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review. And, of course, new in 2017 is the Patreon page. You can go support on there and get certain level of rewards to help me program this channel. As always, I humbly appreciate your support. So until next time, for Matt, for Brittany yelling out in the background, the ice cream man from hell, and the wonderful cat Hawkeye, I'm Ken Napzok. We'll see you again on Life Right.